In this video, we'll look at what expenses you should think about getting rid of before retiring, and a few mistakes that retirees make when it comes to expenses in retirement. There's a few things that you may want to say goodbye to before you say goodbye to that wage or that work income. We're going to cover this in 3 parts. It's going to look like this. First, we'll go over needs and wants, and then what I'd call highway robbery, and then also what to earmark in retirement. We've seen that the retirees that can get rid of these expenses before retiring have a little bit more breathing room, and they feel better about their retirement plan. Because when you're planning for retirement, we usually think about really 2 types of expenses. It's the needs, which are the essentials, the absolute must-haves to just live. You know, as you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those things at the base layer. And then there's the wants, which are the nice to have things. But then there are other types of expenses that really don't fit into that category of needs or wants. Those are the things that we need to be done with before retirement. And by the way, I'm Dave Zoller, and me and my team, we run Streamline Financial. It's a wealth management firm focused on retirement planning, and we've been helping people personally for 13 years, and Streamline's been around for 22 years. And we created this channel to share what's working with our clients so that you can benefit too. So if you're close to retirement, be sure to subscribe, because I share 1 new video each week to make your retirement a little bit better. I also put some free resources in the description below, like my favorite DIY retirement planner if you're more of a do-it-yourselfer. So let's get into the list. And then as you're watching, if I leave something out, please share it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And then also I'll try to reply back too, depending on how many comments I get. So the first 2 you will probably agree with, but you might not be thinking about the other ones. And I want to show you ways to prepare and just make sure that your retirement is a little bit smoother by using our retirement planning software. The first one, which you already know, is to pay off high interest debt, which I sometimes think of as highway robbery. It's when those interest rates are just so high and they're charging people, it just seems unfair, right? That high interest debt I'm referring to is usually credit card debt, and sometimes it's student loan debt. And you'd be surprised at the number of people who in their first year of retirement, they still have a large monthly payment towards credit card payments or student loan debt. And this should be the number 1 thing that we should focus on to really reduce before we say goodbye to that job income or that wage. Because if you retire with credit card debt and then you get serious about paying it off in retirement, then that means you've got this bigger amount that you got to take from investments, which could alter your retirement plans. I helped a woman recently who's not a client, but she was looking at her plan and she wanted some help, and she had about $20K of credit card debt. She also had over $1 million, and her regular expenses, adding on this $20K of a lump sum expense to her plan, it really made quite an impact. And once we looked at that together, it gave her the motivation to work a little bit extra and extra hard to get this debt payment down to 0, or get the credit card debt down to 0 before retiring, because she'd have a greater peace of mind and it would just increase her confidence as she was going into retirement. That peace of mind, it's key, right? I'm sure you're feeling the same way. I actually want to share a little bit more about how to achieve this before you retire and during retirement, and I share that at the end of this video, so stay tuned. The next ones are expenses that you can either pay early, or at least you want to earmark these in your retirement plan. And I'll show you what I mean. When I say earmark, that just means setting aside funds for specific purposes, and either not including those funds in your retirement plan or including them, but at least showing the specifics within the plan. And I'll show you some images coming up of a retirement plan and how to do this. Number 1 thing to earmark is any big travel expenses that you're looking forward to that first year of retirement, or really the first few years of retirement. A lot of people kick off retirement and they'll really have a big special trip that they've always wanted to take, or a place that they've always wanted to go to. And lots of times that vacation, it's going to cost more than the typical vacation that you might take on a regular year. It's really that cap to ending work and then really doing a bigger than normal trip. Some clients choose to take one of those European river cruises that are pretty popular, and they can cost 10 to 20K or more. And knowing that this is a bigger than normal expense or a lump sum expense coming soon into retirement, You can either pay that ahead of time, like actually many of the cruise places make you do, or you can at least earmark it in the plan and make sure that it all works with everything. And I'll throw it in there as an example coming up soon. Here's an example of a retirement plan that's based on annual expenses going up each year 3%, regular inflation rate. And then over on the left side, we can add some expenses that are bigger and irregular, not the regular every year expenses, but things we can earmark so that we can see the impact on the plan before actually spending the money. And doing it this way, we can add some peace of mind to your retirement plan and your confidence as you're spending money. And so you can just feel that it's a good decision and feel good about that vacation or whatever it might be. A few other bigger than normal one-time expenses we've seen are related to your adult kids, if you have them. Whether it's final college expenses, or maybe a wedding that you want to help out with, or future gifts, maybe towards a home purchase or something like that. For those, you're not really able to pay those before you retire because we don't know when they're going to happen. So earmarking them is the next best step, and setting funds aside to make sure that these potential expenses that you might have in the future are ready and available, ready to deploy when needed. One mistake that we've seen some retirees make getting close to retirement is not factoring in these one-time expenses and then getting caught a little off guard when it's time to pay for them, especially if we're in a market like we are now. Now, you might be thinking one big expense that I did not mention. And before I share that one, if you enjoyed watching this video so far and you found it helpful, please click the like button so this can hopefully spread to other people who are like you and might find it helpful as well. So that one big expense that you might be thinking of that I didn't mention yet is paying off your home mortgage before you retire. And this is a big one for many people. As you've heard before, behind every financial decision, there's also an emotional one as well. And many people, they feel very strongly or maybe adamant on being debt-free in retirement. And that's a really good feeling for many people. For others, depending on their financial decision, a mortgage could actually make sense in retirement. Some people see it as a fixed expense, which doesn't go up with inflation. It actually gets cheaper as everything else increases with inflation. And as $1 can buy less and less over time, which is basically what inflation is. It may be at really attractive interest rates as well. And some people want to have a little bit more flexibility in their retirement accounts by keeping some funds available in their non-retirement accounts versus using that money to pay off the mortgage. The more important thing to think about when deciding whether this makes sense, whether to pay it off or not, is try to measure first just the emotional feeling or comfort with debt, yourself, and then also your spouse if you're married. And then step 2 is map out both scenarios. What does it look like? That plan that we were just looking at over here, what does it look like if you pay off debt early or don't pay off the mortgage at all? Look at the difference. See which one's okay. Lots of times it comes down to the strength of the emotional feeling around debt for one person in the relationship, or if it's just you, then it's just whatever you prefer. When we're thinking about paying off expenses or earmarking things in retirement, get help from a financial professional. A CFP could be a great place to start. But I'd like to hear from you. What did I not mention as we're thinking about these different expenses in retirement? I'd love to hear your thoughts about these expenses, and especially the thoughts on having a mortgage in retirement. And I want to share another video about how increasing peace of mind and making sure that you get both parts needed for a successful retirement. The sad thing is that in this industry, the financial industry, most of the time they focus on one thing. But here's a video to watch that'll help you think about and prepare for both sides of retirement. So hopefully I'll see you there. And if you haven't already, subscribe, and then I'll see you in future videos. Take care.